Welcome to the Powered by Factum podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Fuller, and I've got, again, the one and only Mr. Wade Borth with me today. And today we're going to be talking about what our Factum community looks like. And so we've spent a lot of time focusing on the community here at Factum, Wade, which I think is the most important part. Michael Dell gave a really interesting speech a long time ago about the 3 C's you need in business to grow something like real big. He said you need content, commerce, and community. Now, we got great content here. We've got a great way to compensate agents.
Yep.
But what really makes us unique is the community. And if you don't have the community, it doesn't matter how good your content is or how good your compensation schedule is. The community is what you need to grow something really massive. And if you think that's incorrect, study companies like Apple, Keller Williams, Harley Davidson,
right?
People that are in that, like I'm an Android user, right? Are you too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in that.
Not
Oh my
Apple,
gosh, this
yeah.
is so rare. But when I tell people that and they have an iPhone, 9 out of 10 times they're kind of like, why? What's wrong with you? Don't you know how much better? Like that is a community, right? When you tell people I don't have it and they think you're crazy. Your life is so terrible. You should get an Apple, And I'm like, no, thank you. But that's what a community is. Maybe that wasn't the worst light to put it, the best light to put it in. But what it means is they're so passionate about what it is that they do that they literally think you're crazy if you're not also in that community. And if you don't have that piece to a business, don't plan on building anything too large. Right. Someone will come along and they'll beat your numbers or they'll beat your content and people will jump ship. But if you want people to stay long-term and excel and thrive, you have to build a community.
Yeah. And I would agree. I mean, it's so true. That's one of the things we share our content here at Factum. I mean, we are very much abundance mindsets. We want to share our knowledge, our expertise with as many people as possible. And people, I've been told, why do you do that? Why aren't you putting that behind a paywall? That's good stuff. I'm like, well, the stuff that we put together is not unique ever.
No.
I mean, somebody's always had that idea or they put that piece out there. The part that can't be replicated, the part that we're building here that can't be replicated is the sense of community around it. So it's not the piece, it's not the tool, it's not the video that sounds so good. Kyle, you do a ton of videos teaching and educating clients. Anybody can go there and say, hey, look what Kyle's saying, and then want their client to be watching you, and then they'll sell it and they're not part of our community. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Because that's not the part that brings agents to us, right? It's like, I can do all that or I can create all that, but what I'm missing is that person that's going to lift me up or that person that's going to have the same set of values of alignment to 70-80% of what you believe in and what I believe in. And I want to be part of that because I want to be part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And there's a rare exception where somebody says, I don't want anybody to be around me. I'm a lone wolf. But it's a very lonely world when you're out there by yourself. So community is huge from that sense and that standpoint. Is like you said, Apple, I think it's a great example. People look at that and they find tremendous value. It serves their purpose.
Yeah.
It serves their cause. And if that's what you get out of using an Apple versus an Android, then that's great. Then that's a great community to be in. I mean, it's a tool, fine.
Right. It is. And you cannot buy community.
No.
And I think that's why a lot of people don't do it. What we've built here, you have to build it brick by brick, day by day. And it takes years. Yep. You don't build a community in 6 months. It has to be a conscious decision that you say, we're going to be different. We're going to have some principles because principles are non-negotiable. Yep. They're foundational. They should not move. We know who we are. We know what we're about. And we're going to stay right there. And we're going to play the infinite game, right? We're going to think very long-term. And this is where 80% of our conversations revolve around in our business. We had a lot of life insurance, a lot of numbers, a lot of financials, anything in this business, but 80% of the conversations you'll hear at our business have to do with our community.
Yep.
Growing abundantly in those 5 areas of life.
Yep. And part of that too is about a great community is, I think our friend Monty sent us a story one time, is like, sometimes who you don't let in can be as important as who you let in.
Yeah.
Because they have to be a good fit. And not that we're better than anybody else, is that if somebody comes into our group and they're not happy and they don't fit with the community, it's not that they're wrong. It's just that it's just not a fit. So from a selfish standpoint, I don't necessarily want somebody there that's not going to be happy because I want what's best for them.
Right.
And so not everybody belongs, but there are a lot of people that do belong because they are looking for that set of values that we have, that set of purpose that we have, and they want to be part of something bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. Apple does not want me in their community with my Android, right? Because when I'm on like family group chats and everyone's, oh, you have an Android, because apparently my messages come in a different color or something, and they know. And when they're sharing videos, they're always blurred because mine's the only one. It's like, Apple doesn't want that guy in their community. There are certain communities have a certain fit. And the agents that have come over and found our Factom community are such a great fit. And it's because their core values align perfectly with what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Right? They could find better compensation somewhere else.
Maybe,
right? I think ours is pretty good.
Pretty good.
We're going to keep making it better. They could find great content.
Maybe find better.
Our content is pretty good right now, right? But we are going to make it better too. But what they will not find, because you cannot mimic it, you can't copy it, you can't buy it, you can only build it, and that is our community. When people show up, we always get looks. You guys are different. There's something different going on. People recognize, they feel it. And that's what a community should do. You should be in a group and you should recognize there's something else going on here. I love this and I want to be a part of it. Yes, the content's good. Yes, the commerce is great. But I'm here because the community and the values that exist and where this mission is going in the future.
Yeah. And it is so helpful from our standpoint. We have a common business associate with Tammy Brennan, and she always makes the point, what is your message, who you are, what's your purpose, and plant your flag and let people come to you. Right? We don't chase people. That's kind of the fun part, is that we just open up and say, here's what we are, here's what we believe in. Strong belief in what this is. And I use the analogy, and you might have heard this in other podcasts too, but I use the analogy of, imagine a cabin out in the woods. It's all pitch black at night and the flame is burning inside that cabin. There's a distinct difference between where the light's at and where the darkness is. And people that want to belong to our community are standing in our light. And so we've decided to say, that's the people we want to serve. And those people want to hear our message. They want to be part of what we want to do. And some of them are out there going, maybe not. And it's maybe not now, but eventually maybe they do come around, because there's people that will watch you. It's funny how people will watch you like from afar. And I think there's something going on. And I'll take my story back to Nelson Nash. I had to read his book 3 times before I'm like actually picked up the phone to call the guy. And then once I did, it's like, I want to be part of that community.
Yeah.
So we find that people are like either in immediately, or they're sitting back and they're watching. And all I would encourage people, if you're sitting back and watching, have a conversation. Call Kyle, call me, call anybody on our team. Ask anybody that's on our team what they like about us. What have we done? What has Factom done for us, right? Because that's always really where the rubber hits the road, is when the agents are having fun, being successful, and having a fulfilling career and abundance in all these different areas. They're going to go, that's what's exciting about it. It's not about comp. It's not about anything else. It's about those key principles.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I wanted to touch base on, we've never chased. I had to sit back and I'm like, we have never actively recruited for our company ever until right now. Right now, we're turning on the beacons to let people know what's over here, because it's time. The infrastructure's here, the coaching and training, our systems and processes, everything's here now. And it's time to really push this message out on a large scale, getting ready to do what we're about to do. But it all starts with that 5 areas conversation. An idea that we believe here is that life includes 5 areas: spiritual, personal, family, financial, and occupation. And if you want to wake up and enjoy every second of every day, you have to create abundance in all 5 areas. And I believe the spiritual area is the most important. That's your purpose. That's why you're here. That will set the tone for every other area in your life. Now, we primarily teach in the financial area, which a lot of people like. We got great stuff here. But what we teach, why we teach to win in the financial area, is what's so cool. It's not just to have more money, which is always a good thing. It's to fund your missions in the other areas of life, so you can fulfill your purpose, so you can have better family experiences, more of them. Spend the money you need to personally. Give to the causes and charities you want to give to. That's why you want to make money. And when people see our messaging here, I think that's why they say, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's so true, because it's not, again, the financial part of it is no less important and no more important than the rest of the areas. It just happens to be the fuel that funds and allows us to do a lot of the other things. And again, financial, and when people think financial, they think, money, and then obviously they go back to that idea that, money is the root of all evil. Well, no, the love of money is the root of all evil. What we can do with it, That's the real beauty. It's, like,
Yeah.
it's just any other tools. Like now I have this tool where I can go and accentuate all those things I wanted to do. So again, if you were miserable before you have money, you're probably going to be miserable after you have money.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't change. But again, having that abundance and actually having that conversation, right? That 5 areas conversation, I think is a huge thing that sets us apart from everybody else that's out there.
Yeah. And money is nothing more than an amplifier of who you are.
100%.
And I absolutely believe the people telling us that money is the root of all evil, they're the ones with the money and they don't want you to have it. They're the ones getting it from you.
Right.
Because you haven't increased your financial IQ.
Yeah.
But if people would just slow down a little bit and realize that money's nothing more than a tool that can help them accomplish their goals and their vision.
Yeah.
And I believe we need more good people with a lot of money,
yeah.
which is one of our focuses here.
Again, money's, it's not just like the small piece of pie, I guess.
Yeah.
You just make a bigger pie. I mean, that's the whole thing and that's what we believe is I want you to be successful. Quite frankly, I was at a conference where we had a couple hundred people in a room this week, and I wish for success for everyone because it's that abundance mindset. Because I don't believe that if you win, I lose. I go back to the phrase, who loses if I don't win?
Yeah.
And and I believe that with everybody. And that's part of our community is that we all believe that same thing. Is like we have a purpose and we understand what our purpose is. And I want to be around other people that have that same purpose. So I'm going to have bumps in my life. I'm going to have bumps down the road. And if I don't have anybody in my community to lift me up, then, it becomes a very lonely place to be. I mean, you and I have had many conversations. I'm like, man, I'm frustrated, or I was just down, or whatever it is. But if I didn't have somebody to come to, where does that leave me? And what path does that take me down? And then on the other side of it, I feel honored when somebody comes to me and says, man, I'm having a tough time of it. And I want to lift them up as well. And that's community. Community. Is giving and giving without any idea of getting more back than you ever put into it, right? We have to make deposits into something. So let's make it into our community. So when we need that withdrawal, we've made tremendous deposits.
I love it. That's so good.
Yeah.
So with those 5 areas, Wade, what's the most important thing in every area?
Boy, that's a great question. What's the most important thing in every area? Well, I think, again, let's start with spiritual. And spiritual could be a lot of things to a lot of different people. And so what does that mean? But I think it's like belonging to something that's greater than what you are. That's ultimately the test that we have to look at when we say spiritually. Is it your creator? Is it nature? Whatever it is, right? But am I responsible to somebody that's greater, or something or someone that's greater than who I am? And I know in my heart, and I know that being accountable to a higher power leads us to much better results.
So what I'm hearing you say is there's some type of relationship with something
100%.
that is so important, right?
Yeah. It always
So-
comes back to the relationship, right?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's your relationship with a higher calling. That could be God. It could be whatever it is you believe spiritually. In the personal area, it's your relationship with yourself. It's the relationship with the family. It's your relationship with money. It's your relationship with your occupation. The most important thing in all 5 areas are relationships.
Yeah.
And we are a highly relationship-based company.
Yeah. It always comes back down to the relationship. Like you said, in all those different areas. If you can't have strong relationships, and quite frankly, if you can't grow, I mean, nobody wants to be stagnant, because if you don't grow, you're not going anywhere. So you want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that's learning to grow that relationship. It doesn't happen just naturally. You have to have an understanding, like with your communities, like how can I participate? How can I have some input so I can grow in my relationship with my community? Like we have a call every Monday with our agents called Focus on Success. And sometimes it's just about one person teaching, but if Steve's teaching, or if I'm teaching, you're teaching, whoever's teaching, it always comes back to, let's have an interaction. This is an open mic night. Let's have a conversation, because that's what grows a relationship.
It's the intentional growth.
Intentional growth.
You have to be. It cannot be passive. It cannot be coincidental.
Yeah.
You have to commit to intentional growth with your relationships in all 5 areas.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to the financial, because that's obviously where a lot of people get stuck. But people's relationship with their finances is such a goofy thing.
Yeah, it is.
It is. I think it's one of the hardest ones to teach. And I don't even really want to say teach. It's the hardest one to even have a conversation with, because everybody has a different type of relationship with their finances, with their money. But it's because it's typically, that's how they measure themselves. That's the one that they use for measurement of success.
Yeah.
And if they could just take a step back and say, well, if I have a good relationship in all the other areas, I'm learning how to have a great relationship with my family, my wife, my business, whatever it might be, my occupation, my community, then they're going to learn how to have a great relationship with their money. And that, again, this goes back to, we talk about community. This is a conversation I've never heard any other group of agents in our business talking about, because it starts with theirs, learning how to have a great relationship and nurturing relationships, because nothing else matters if you don't have a great relationship.
Yeah, and it takes time too.
Yeah.
And so you have to incorporate that principle we have of infinite thinking. You got to be able to think abundantly, long term, and that's the only way you're going to build a community. A community is not built in 6 to 12 months. No. Well, you can have a great financial year in 6 to 12 months, but a community takes time to grow, and you have to build it right. And if there's ever cancer, you got to cut it out. You have to be very careful. It has to be grown in that manner, but it has to be founded on principles, and those cannot change.
Yeah, founded on principles, and you say it takes time, and I'm going to say it takes forever.
It's good. It's infinite.
It's infinite. It has to be. In other words, if it hits to a point where it's done, then what's next?
Right.
Then it fails. And
that's a great point.
It's failed after that. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be evolving day after day, hour after hour, conversation after conversation in all those areas, because it should never end. It ends with us individually when we graduate from this world, but hopefully that relationship with our creator continues to grow after that. But beyond that, the community is going to grow, our finances are going to grow, our legacy, whatever it is, we hope that it grows infinite.
And the more people that join this community, Wade, one of our other guiding principles is stronger together.
Yeah.
So the more people that enter this, the more fun it becomes, the more powerful it becomes.
Yeah.
This is where we're in the boom right now. That's going to be really fun to look back in 5 or 10 years and be like, oh my goodness.
I'm excited.
That's how communities also explode.
Yeah.
There's a compound effect to those as well.
I'm excited to go up 5 years from now, come back and listen to this podcast. We're probably going to say, hey, I know a lot of what we're talking about is not going to change.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of uncertainty, but also a lot of belief in what we're doing. Just because I haven't seen it built. I haven't seen it built successfully, but I know what we're going to do is going to be successful, and we're going to build it. And so that uncertainty, a little bit of uncertainty, is actually tamped down because we have a great community to kind of lift us up, and we know we're headed the right direction.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about it.
Me too. So most of the agents that come to us, Wade, they see that part of the community first, and they say, this is really cool. I want to be a part of this. And I'd say one of the other pieces, so they're highly relationship people. They love the idea of creating abundance in all 5 areas of life. But I would say they're also very mission driven to teach infinite banking.
Yeah.
Because I think every agent, including you and I, had some type of light bulb moment or awakening happening where something in our life happened and we said, something is not quite right with the financial system. But coming across that book, Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash, there was a major paradigm shift for all of us. And something shifted, which also drove him here. And the fact that we specialize in that concept, using whole life insurance as that primary banking tool, most of the agents that are coming to us also had very similar experiences, which drives a deep passion to teach others how to become their own banker.
100% agree. And I would even take a step back. If you look at Nelson's book, and you and I have studied it a lot, we'll maybe have a separate session where we talk about the book, but we studied a lot. And Nelson always talked about the problem. And again, it's not about the banking process, it's about savings, right? And so savings is the conversation that we've learned to get into, because unless you're able to, it goes back to having good habits, unless you're able to have that habit of saving and doing the right thing with those savings, then nothing else matters.
Right.
And Nelson's book has made a huge impact. And again, that's a whole other community. You talk to people that are very passionate about infinite banking. That's a very passionate community, which I'm part of.
Many of us are.
Yeah, many of us are. And so a lot of people that are out there listening, they might go, hey, I kind of like what you're saying. I like this whole infinite banking idea. I like a strong savings conversation, whatever it is. That's all important. But come and see what our values are and make sure we're in alignment because again, I don't want people, in our community that aren't supposed to be here. What I mean by that is I want ultimately their happiness and their success and their fulfillment is the number one thing I want. In a community that's not like fulfilling them, then let's find you a different place, because not everybody's meant to work with us.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good content out there with other IBC companies, the Nelson Nash Institute. But what sets us apart again is that community. Yep. You can go learn whole life insurance and infinite banking from a number of different agencies. But what we have here is the community that we've built. And that's what people get attracted to.
Yep.
The content and the commerce you can teach, innovate, change as many times as you want. But that community aspect has to be founded on those principles, and that cannot be changed.
Yeah.
It needs to be a constant.
And part of the community is the giving community, right? So we're giving to the point where we want to give you the system. We want to give you a process. We ultimately want your success. I always say the true measure of success is when people are 10 times more successful than me. And that's what I want for everybody.
Yeah. And that's the go-giver mentality.
Yeah.
So the 3 books that we recommend to every agent that comes and works with us. Number 1, The One Thing. And by the way, we read it every January as a company. The Compound Effect, we read it every February. And The Go-Giver, we read every March as a company.
Yep.
Now, the principles in The Go-Giver, if you were to describe our people here, you would call them go-givers.
100%.
They're just people who live to serve other people. They want to give as much as possible, pure abundance. They understand that they will get compensated in direct correlation with the amount of people they serve and how well they serve them.
And it really comes back to, you say they want to give value. And that's the whole thing behind the go-giver. It's like always bringing value to every conversation. I mean, that's the ultimate go-giver part of it. Is like, how can I bring value to you today? And never thinking about how does it serve me? Because as soon as we switch that and says, how does it serve me? And when things become self-serving, people see right through that.
Yeah.
And again, we're not perfect in this world. We all have a tendency to do that. And I've seen that when I've slipped in there and I go, oh, am I serving me or am I serving the person I'm having a conversation with?
Yeah.
But it's like anything else. The more you practice it and the more you understand, become enlightened to it. That's why we read the book every year, so we can understand and become enlightened to it real fast. Oh, I'm slipping down that pathway. Let me redirect a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, right, that goes back to that incompetence. You're right.
Conscious incompetence.
Yeah, it comes back from that. Now we're conscious or unconscious incompetence. Now we're conscious competence. When we're reading this book and understanding, oh, I'm headed down the wrong path.
I'm doing these things.
Yeah,
right.
And so that's why it's so valuable for us to. We do a Friday book club every Friday at noon my time, and I find that to be one of the most enjoyable things we do because we pull out some different books. We're right now, we're Simon Sinek Start With Why, and I've read it 10 times, but I'm getting so much more out of it. But now because I have a community around me, all talking about how they see it. And that's the interesting part about it too, is when you do a book club, you see a book from a different perspective. And that's actually one of my favorite things of our community is we want that mastery of ourselves. And so part of that is let's read some books, let's talk about it. And when you start talking about it and throwing out your opinions and your thoughts about things, it really cements those things in your soul.
Yeah. And when we're talking about self-mastery, education's fine, but without action, it's completely worthless.
100%.
So it's that old saying, like, instead of reading 10,000 books, I'd rather read 3 great books 10,000 times and get that self-mastery, because that's where it builds the depth. That's what builds that confidence and that conviction that I always hear you chat about. What do you really need to be successful as an agent in this business? Confidence and conviction. And self-mastery will enhance both of those things.
Yeah. Belief in yourself and belief in your message. Those are the two things. And
Right.
part of believing in yourself is that self-mastery. And was it Bruce Lee that said he doesn't fear somebody that has 1,000 different moves. He says he fears his opponent that had one move that he practiced 1,000 different times.
Right. That's a master.
That's a master.
That's what we call a killer in this business.
Yeah.
Right.
Super focused. And you and I've been to leaders conference or leadership conferences for these insurance companies. You look at the people that are out there, those are the people that are super focused, right? So they're masters in their realm.
They're specialized.
Very
I've always
much.
heard you say the riches are in the niches in this
Yep.
business. Like
Yep.
you need to find your market
Yep.
and then focus on it, become a master in that realm.
Yeah, and that's what I love about our community. Is like everybody's picking I want to work with just this group, or I have a passion to work with this group, or I want to be here. And you can do all that within this community. What's nice about it is if I'm an agent out there, I'm like, hey, Kyle, you're great at working with or surgeons or whatever it is. I have a couple surgeons. Let's work. I'm going to bring these guys and I want to have them talk to you because you have such great knowledge. And then your position is, hey, I want to give back to me. And so what we find is that there's always greed there, right? But there's the abundance mindset that can do so much better together.
Yeah.
So
And that's just the go-giver mentality, right? It's purely focused on abundance. There's no scarcity here.
no,
If I come across a client or a prospect in my pipeline and I'm like, this person should absolutely go to this agent on our team, I'll make the introduction. We'll split the case. I'd rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing. And especially if it means that client is going to be with a better fit for someone else because the relationship is more natural there.
Yeah. Exactly. That relationship goes back to what we said. The relationship is the most important thing that you have out there. So.
And so another trait that most agents have when they come see us, it's the ability to think long term. They're not short term thinkers. They don't come here because they're like, oh, cool, this will be a 1 year stop for me. They come here and they see, oh, we're thinking really long term. Like I got a 70-year vision.
Yeah.
Right?
But it doesn't stop there, though,
it
does it?
doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
Because our goal here with Factum is we're building this to never sell it. We'll transfer what we're building to the next generation of leaders. And this is exactly how a big mutually owned carrier operates. And it's why they've been around for 150 plus years. There's no, One America doesn't just sell out, right? They get new leadership. They train and they develop new people with long-term perspectives, which is why we love the leadership at One America. I think they have some of the best leaders in those places that are going to make great long-term decisions for us as policyholders. And we're going to do the same thing here with our mutually owned agency.
And that goes back to what's your focus, right? If you're focusing on the next 6 months or 8 months or a year, your actions typically are different than somebody that's looking at the next 6, 8 decades.
It's a great point.
So your actions are just going to be different because you just have a different focus. And to the point of a mutually owned company, right? So we're talking about community. You talk about a mutually owned agency. It's my responsibility, it's your responsibility to be good stewards and shepherds with the company where it is today. And if we're developing great leaders and great people along the way to take over, then they're going to take it to a level that we maybe never imagined. That's the exciting part.
Right.
I mean, that's why I get up and sometimes I can't sleep at night. I was like, how am I going to develop somebody so they can take it beyond what I've ever imagined? And that's the real beauty of it.
Yeah. It makes me think, Wade, do we have some pretty awesome leaders in our company right now?
Oh, yeah. Fabulous people.
Yeah. What gets me really excited is that the best leaders that Factum will have are not even in the business right now.
I know.
Isn't that cool?
That's crazy.
That's a wild thought.
Yeah.
I love it.
It could be somebody standing or sitting in a truck listening to this podcast think, I can contribute to this community.
Here's my shot.
Yeah.
This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. They'll know that's their purpose. Or it could be your children. Maybe that's going to be the next leader, or the children of a different age, and that might be the next leader. It could be anybody that's supposed to be here.
Right. If I'm going to spend 70 years of my life building this, it is possible that some of the best and future leaders aren't even born yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's crazy to think. But that's how an insurance company, especially how a mutual insurance company thinks. Again, I was talking about the symposium I was at. They can constantly bring that back up as we're building products and we have to administer products for people that aren't even born yet.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's just
what
a
other
different
financial company thinks like that?
Nobody.
You have to take such a different approach.
Yeah.
And it's why they have the most certain assets in the world.
Yeah. Certainty definitely outweighs uncertainty in people's minds.
100%.
People are willing to do so much more when they have for certainty than they are for uncertainty.
Yep, you're spot on. And I'll say the last thing, just to tie it back, is our people here, our agents, our community, it's so relationship driven. It's never transaction driven. No, I shouldn't say never, because we're always working, right? We're always getting better.
Right.
So sometimes we do get a little bit, should I have a little bit more of this? Should I have given that deal? Yeah. Right? Like you those commission eyes are real, even when you're new and when you're
35 years into the business, right?
It still happens. We're constantly working on ourselves. But I would say the vast majority of the time, our people make decisions based off of how it's going to benefit others. Is this the right thing for the relationship? And usually the last person we're thinking about is what's going to be here for me.
Right.
And this is the funny thing about the Go Giver way. When you embrace that, you truly believe in abundance. Can you ever give more than enough, Wade? You think that's possible?
No.
Yeah. But yet we make decisions thinking like somehow money's going to run out. There's so much money out there. Why are we fighting over it?
Yeah.
Why don't we just collaborate? We share, we give, and I can guarantee you, if you embrace that 100%, more money will circle back around to you than you could ever fathom.
Yeah, and I'll even speak for myself. I get that way.
Yeah, you do.
We all do.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just when I'm talking to you, Kyle. But we all get that way. And again, part of that community, and we've talked about this earlier too, is like helping you recognize and help inside yourself saying, hey, who am I focused on? And once I start realizing that I'm focused on the wrong thing and the wrong person, quickly that changes. And then the conversation switches to, who am I supposed to be serving? And the person I'm supposed to be serving is our clients or our agents or wherever our customer is.
Right.
And ultimately, when you start focusing on just that, like who are we supposed to be serviced at, to what level, and what value are we bringing to the table, then all that goes away.
It's so easy to make the decision.
Yeah.
And like that's one thing I've appreciated about our relationship, Wade, is whenever we've had a thought like this and you need to get it out and, Wade, am I thinking about this right? Or vice versa.
Yeah.
And we're usually quick to be like, well, let's go back to our guiding principles.
Yeah.
What are we here to do? You're right. We're going to give it. Done. Decisions made. It's over. And guess what? It always works out.
Yeah.
When you're 100% in, because our relationship is not 50-50. We didn't team up and say, you're going to do this or else, and I'm going to do this or else. We came into this and we said, I'm going to give you my highest and best at all times, Wade, and I expect the same, but you were going to do that anyways.
Right.
I make decisions based off what I think is going to be best for you, and I know you do the exact same thing for me, which is why we've never had a serious altercation or argument. The core values are so in line, and we get to move so quickly, always focused on abundance.
Yeah. And I think like for anybody that's listening to it and they're like, well, how does that relate to me? Well, if everybody's all in 100%, it's never that. We hear win-win, and sometimes we think that means everybody wins. That means everybody wins. Well, maybe the phrase should be all in, right? So there's a different conversation when you say, I don't want 50 and you take 50. As I've heard you say with your marriage, you don't give just 50% of your effort to your marriage. It's 100%. And that's exactly what you're saying there.
Yeah.
But it's all in versus win-win.
Yeah, I have to. I mean, if you look at what Diane does for our family, so
yeah,
I guess let's just go there quickly because we should chat about this. When we're submitting cover letters, which is basically a description for why we're trying to get a certain amount of insurance on someone, and I've got a stay-at-home mom, I have a pre-written cover letter. It's like, a stay-at-home mom does all these things. They are easily worth $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And Diane not only kills that at home, but she does such a great job with our boys, and she works. Like I got to go like 110 if I'm going to match that, right?
If you're going to honor that commitment.
But this is why you only hire and attract killers in your business and in your life, because that's the only way killers operate. They'll never give you 80%. That doesn't make sense to us. If we team up, I'm going to give you everything I possibly have, because my actual goal is not to have me be wealthy. It's actually to help you become insanely wealthy in this business. And if everyone operated like that, do you know how many of the mindless, needless conversations you would avoid in the day?
Right, 100%.
Yeah, it's the greatest.
And it goes, Ziegler, I remember, who said it was like, if I can help you get what you want, that allows me to get what I want.
You help enough people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Get what they want.
And
I
so,
love it.
So it goes back to that and to that relationship. And I think about this even from like an agent listening to this podcast. Your and I relationships is the same way. It's like, I don't have to focus on the things that aren't in my wheelhouse. My strengths aren't developing systems or processes or programs. I mean, I can hardly even spell that or say it without laughing, right? That's not my strength. My strength is relationships with the people and helping grow conversations around insurance and the insurance industry and the insurance world. But I know that you're giving 110% or 100% all in every day. So I don't have to worry about that. So I can go give 100% on my end. I look at that from our marriage. My wife was a lot like Diane, right? She did all the things so I could go do and be the best I could possibly be.
Right.
And so I have to honor that and saying, well, what can I do at the 100% level so she could go do and be the best that she can possibly be?
Yeah, you better not be at your office wasting time pretending to work.
Right, exactly. Out on the golf course when I'm saying out talking to people.
That's right.
Although I do like to get on the golf course, but it's been a while.
It's okay to have fun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're listening to this and you're an agent and you feel like this is calling to you, this feels like your community, make sure to go to our website, factumfinancial.com. Click on the tab that says Become an Agent and learn how to join the mission with us.